Hi and welcome back to MDriven. And today's session is about a new ability to build the recursive trees in MDriven UI. So when you have something like, let's take this model, and you have a thing, and that thing may be related to itself like this. So when the thing has thing children, and each child has 0 or 1 parent, and that's all good and well, but how would you represent such a tree? Because that could have indefinite depth. That's no problem with the data as such, that can be indefinite, but the problem comes with the declarative view model that we want to display this. So that's what has been added, and I'm now going to show how one would go about that. Let's say we take this view one thing, and in order for this new logic to work, we need to use placing containers, because that's a crucial part of the strategy. So I'm going to convert this to placing containers. And let's say that I now underneath here also would like to show all the thing children. And that needs to be in a placing container in order to make it work. So when we have placing containers on lists, they become list views. So, and since it's a list view, this is many, there will be 2 placing containers. There must be 2 placing containers at least, because the first one is the whole list view as such, and I want that to cover all. And that won't currently grow, because the reason for this one not growing is because I need to say that this root is also going to grow. Now I can see that it will grow to fill the screen. So this first one is for the list view rows in this case, and the next one is for what will happen within a single row. And what I want to do is to show some data. I'm going to take this attribute SumString. I'm going to delete. I'm going to make sure that we can edit this. Read only is not set. And what about me wanting this to actually show the subchildren of this? I could go on like this and add a nested view model to thing children, but then I'm stuck with doing the same design for the second level of the tree. That would be one way to build a tree, but then I need to know the depth of the tree, the maximum depth. That's not something that you always would necessarily know. So instead of doing that, we can delete this node and stand on this this column that ends in many objects or delivers many objects, and say recurse, because then we can recurse back to another level that matches the type. And in this case, I want to recurse back to this level, and then I would choose thing. Then it says that it will recurse, and what will happen then is that in this row, this list view will come again. So we'll see what happens on that. But in order to have some test data, I guess we also would like a button to add a child to an existing or the current selected thing here. So I'm going to go about that. We can do a class action on thing to actually add a child. So showing actions, I'm going to add a class action on thing, and that class action add a child, and what the execute expression of that should be is self, and the thing children was the link call, and I want to add thing. So let's try that out, and we can do that in live edit. I'm starting the server, creating one thing, going into the view. So I'm not sure why this looks so crowded now. Let's see if I'm going to remove this and read for the details to see why that was. Okay, now if I have this thing children and use this action add child, I get a new child. So this is child 1. If I now have this selected, I can add a child on that child, and that will come here. So this is not much of a tree view really. So if I do yet another child, this is not exactly the look that I want on a tree. Also, it can be hard to know what the left side actions point to when having it like this. So to mitigate that, I'm going to add an action column and say that it's presented just with a plus sign, and execute the add child action, because what would happen then is when I do that, I get subchild. So I get a tree view that way. Now the action column is outside of or after the list, so it might be easier to see having it like that. So even if it is a tree that we see, it's not a very preview-like display. So how can we change that? We need to work with the placing containers to fix this. And probably what we want to do is to have first a collecting column, and within that we could use this row, but in that could also use another column to show the details under the row, not like that, to show the details under the row, like that. Because then we have one column, and for each column there will be a row, and it should be a child of this, and this should be the sibling above, like that. Then we can see that it starts to look like a tree view a bit, but you might want to inset this. Let's give this this column can have a margin on 40 pixels, and let's see how this looks in a browser. Everything is getting really cramped when this grows, so that's not good. We're gonna say that this one actually can scroll and that it should hide the overflow. The scrolling and overflow hiding to work, we actually need to set that on the level above the list view. 2 columns here and move most of the things to the first one, this children to this one. And then I'm going to say that this column firstly should grow, and that it can scroll, and it should hide the overflow. And now it's looking more like a tree view, but you see this empty space here. It's because that we try to render something when we have no children. And what we can do is say that this whole, so we know that this placing container might be made invisible when the size of the children is 0. So it should be visible when the size is larger than 0. And then we get it like a even better kind of tree view. Maybe you want to remove the presentation on this and say that everything here should justify to the y direction should be on the end. Maybe we would like to have them fold or not. And then one can also say that we need some kind of data to keep track if it's folded or not. And if we have that is open, for example, but we don't have such an attribute today, so we're going to add that attribute and we're going to make that a boolean, and it shouldn't be nullable. Could be, but no reason to. We need to parenthesis these so that they are kept from the and we don't bind and to 0, bind it to the whole expression. And then we would need a checkbox here for the is open, and I guess we don't need a presentation of that. So now I can check that and have the tree view open up, or uncheck that to have it close. And maybe whenever I push the plus button, I would like it to implicitly be folded out. So I would do that on my action, that whenever a child is added, I would also set self is open, because then it would be natural to see it like this. And this tree can then be as deep as needed. Of course, there will be limitations on what the UI rendering mechanism will cope with. So this is the Angular rendering mechanism, and that copes with a lot. But one can see a bit of sluggishness when as the data grows. What we have introduced is the Blazor rendering, and that would behave faster. So that's basically a faster rendering engine. Okay, what about some lines here? One might want those. Well, I guess we can try and do some. Should be possible if, let me think, we do, let's try a bit here. I'm going to do yet another column and put these within it, because then I can do one parallel to this and have a sibling above. Change this one to being a row, I guess, because then if I put a minimum width, change this to a row, I'm looking to get something to draw a line in. So the minimum on this could be made to 40, and then I guess the other one that I had. So now I have an area here, which might be, let's see what happens if this one gets a style. So I'm going to go into style definition and create one that I call tree line and activate that for placing container. And I'm going to need to add a color which should be set like that, and I'm going to have a border on the, let's do a bit of a border, and it's only going to be not on the top and not on the right, only the bottom and the left. Let's see what that would give us. And I need to apply this style to this row. So find the style from self VM styles, and maybe then do further detailing. So within this single cell that or placing container that holds the line, let's see what happens if we within that do a column that in turn has within that column has two subcolumns. Where I'm going with this is that I want the styling to sort of I want this line to be in the middle. So this one should definitely, these should grow, both of them, so that they share the space. And then we can move the styling from this one to the two of these. But we want the last half of this to only have the style if we have children and if we are open. So basically the same expression as we have for visible here. We want to control the styling of this line here. And we can go like this, true, false. If it's true, we want to have the style. If it isn't true, we want the blank value return. Not sure why. No, it's not necessarily a child, it's a sibling. Not sure why we don't get the set here. Maybe it's a margin thing. It overflows a bit. So on this one, we want the bottom margin to be, it wasn't a margin thing, then it must be a width thing. Is this different for placer? And no, maybe it's a min width thing of these. So we want this column to have, we want this column to actually fill out the row, which is 40. So we're going to do like that, and then we will see the line. And then in turn we can remove this margin, but then we wouldn't want this line in the middle here, and that has to do with us using this. We're going to do another style, tree line 2 here, that we need to sort of copy the whole style and paste it in and call that tree line 2. For that one, we shouldn't have a left border, no, a bottom, taking down the color because it annoyed me. But there's still something, so it's not so much if I have children or not, it's if I have siblings or not. So the rule should really be, there should be a line. If I have a sibling, we should also have the vertical or the horizontal line. If we don't have a sibling, if we're the last one, we should have the other style right here in the middle. And the tree line 2 is the one that's going to be optional, right? I'm getting the hang of this now. When should this upper line be, or rather, what should we draw? What style should we have on the upper part? It depends. If self, I'm going to remove this for now, self parent, and if we check children index of ourselves, we can make the zero-based index of. If the index of is equal to, go like this, if the last child, no, the last child equals to us, right? Then it's something we should do. If we're the last one, we want, actually here we always want the one with the horizontal bar, because we always want the line down and the line in. It's in the lower one that we want to check. If we're the last one, then we only want the one with the bar in. Now if we're the last one, we want nothing. But if we're not the last one, we want the straight line, not the line in. It's almost right. This looks good. It's a tree and the arrow in. Do a child. One more. I guess maybe when we're the first one, do we want this one? This loads down to the middle when it should stay up here, right? Why does it do that? This continues down when it really should stay. So we can see how when we have the designer boxes on. Maybe I'm wrong that this shouldn't grow at all. This shouldn't grow, but it should have a minimum. Let's try 40. And the other one probably should grow. Now it looks okay. The way well, anyway, as you see, well, it's easy to get stuck on details, but what is important in the end are the results. So just to reiterate what was the new thing, it's the recurse option that you can, instead of doing a thing many times in the view model, say instruct it that it should reuse the same. And that gives you the ability to build indefinite depth trees. Right. Thank you for listening and welcome back.